Friday games of the Champions Cup. Helpfully, these were both broadcast at the exact same time. So it was kind of hard to pick which one to watch. Here in New Zealand, it was Edinburgh and Newcastle that was on the telly. So I did put that one on, but I made a strange move and also put Scarlets v Ulster on the computer. So I had them on at the same time. Which was, if you can hear screaming in the background, that is my daughter, who is 7 months old and likes making noise, just FYI. But yeah, I had these games on at the same time, so I was kind of able to monitor both of them. I probably had a bit more eyes on the Edinburgh game just because it was on the telly instead of on the laptop. So, but yeah, I've pretty much seen both of them. Both pretty entertaining games. The first one was pretty much a big old game of two halves, because Newcastle were actually ahead at halftime in this one, which was surprising given how many players they had out. They only had 7 guys on the bench because injuries. Yeah, so it was always going to be a long night for Newcastle. You know, not all their big guns playing, and just so many injuries. They took the lead with a penalty early on. I mean, I think the lead changed 3 times in this game. Newcastle only had the 1 try to Rudwan, who I thought actually looked pretty dangerous the few times he had the ball. He had one really good line break to go along with that try that he scored. But Edinburgh, their forwards, man, really, really dominant in this game. The scrum especially, which was always going to get a fair bit of pay with Newcastle having so many guys out and a loose head having to cover at tight head with no cover. That was always going to be just a big problem for them, and it proved to be. I mean, the penalty count in this game, I think, in the end of it was 13-6 against Newcastle, so a lot of those penalties were coming at scrum and maul time. Edinburgh, I thought, played smarter as the game went on because, I mean, as I said, they had a fair bit of ball in the first half. They had a lot of opportunities, but they were just making some dumb decisions, which was a bit frustrating. Like they had all the ball, and then I think at one point they got the first scrum that they got rewarded was a free kick. And instead of, the scrum looked really solid, and instead of calling for another scrum and perhaps trying to milk a penalty, they quick tapped it and nothing happened from it, and Newcastle ended up counter-attacking. Another time, instead of kind of running it back, Kinghorn kicked it out on the full. Purgos did the same. So there were a few kind of frustrating errors from Edinburgh, even though they did score that 1 try to Watson in the first half. He's a pretty immense player, isn't he? I do like watching him. But yeah, Newcastle's try, they took it pretty smartly. It was just through the hands. Hands ended up beating the numbers that Edinburgh had in defence, so they scored a try. Went into the sheds at halftime, 13 points to 10 up, despite run meters 163-76 in favour of Edinburgh first half. Possession and territory was like 64 to Edinburgh, and then territory 72, so it was all Edinburgh in that first half. But they were making handling errors. Turnovers conceded, Edinburgh had 9, which was almost double what Newcastle had. And yeah, both sides tackling fairly well, both in the 90s in that first half, but Newcastle having to make a lot more. Second half, as I said, Edinburgh seemed to start playing a bit smarter, really taking advantage of the areas that they were dominant in, mostly up with the forwards. I mean, Newcastle's defence was doing a really admirable job to hold out, as I said, with 1 less replacement. You know, guys not playing in their perhaps best positions, so many big guys out. But yeah, Edinburgh just really got on top, and the weather turned pretty foul at times. It seemed like it was pretty wet, so that probably added to the forwards getting a bit more of the ball. Edinburgh would just build phases, got a scrum penalty try. Newcastle probably lucky not to get yellow carded at one point. Kinghorn's try was an absolute stroll-in. Really nice little offload from Mata to Van der Vault, who ended up putting a kick through, and Kinghorn won't score an easier one apart from having all that time to think about picking up the ball, because he was all by himself to pick up that thing. But I mean, full-time stats, it's totally dominant. 387 to 169 run meters. Possession was 60+%. territory. I think similar penalties conceded, as I said, was well in Edinburgh's favour. So yeah, Newcastle just not able to hold over the full course of the 80. They did a really good job in the situation they were in, but it was never going to be enough. Edinburgh just got too good as the game went on, and a lot of guys showed some class and smarts. Whatever the coach said to them at halftime, it seemed to work, and yeah, that's what you want. Even if you're not at your best, you can find a way to unlock the other team, and yeah, they got it done. Newcastle had to make a whole lot of tackles in that game, and yeah, it just proved to be a bit too much. The next one, Scarlets Ulster. What a game! Another game where the lead changed on multiple occasions. Oh, I should say Edinburgh pretty chuffed to get a bonus point out of that one as well. Ulster, likewise, bonus point away win to Scarlets. People told me in the comments before this one that these teams just go with whoever's at home to get the win. Apparently Ulster have had enough of that, and they've done it by a point. It was kind of edge of the seat stuff towards the end of the game. I'm not that sure how Scarlets managed to get back into it. For a while there, it looked like Ulster were going to have quite a wee buffer, but to Scarlets' credit, they kept knocking on the door, and it just didn't quite prove to be enough. Ulster did miss a few kicks, and Cooney missed a few kicks in this game, which perhaps made it a bit tighter than they would have liked. But hey, you know, guys have days with the boot where they don't get them all, and this was one of them. They still did enough to get it. And I think the lead changed at least 3 times in this one because you know, Patchell kicked an early penalty. Ulster evened it up. Stockdale's try. That guy has a thing for just scoring magic tries. He managed to go through kind of 2 guys for his try. Scarlets will be pretty disappointed they didn't put a tackle on him. He is a hard guy to bring down, and yeah, it was tough, but a great try from Stockdale. He just keeps putting those in. Conversion didn't come, and Ulster missed a penalty, so it was still kind of 3 points to 8 in favour of Ulster after, you know, 20 plus minutes. Steph Evans got his try though after 25, and that was from heaps of phases and a really well taken try. And then Spate got one not long after, so it was kind of tit for tat stuff. Evans in 26, Spate in 34. Spate had a really good game, I thought. He was funny in Super Rugby this season just gone. Like, for the first half of the season he was quiet, but for the second half he really improved. And the game that Spate played this week, I don't know how he's been playing for Ulster in the Pro, but yeah, this was in-form Henry Spate performance. You know, he scored a try, put in a try-saving tackle. Could have had an intercept to really put nail in the coffin in like the 70-odd minute, but just didn't quite stick. But yeah, a few guys seemed to go off with HIAs as well. Kasim went off pretty early, so it was a hard game. At halftime, it was, again, like the first game, it was 13 points to 10 at halftime to the away team. Stats, Ulster had more of the run meters, but Scarlets had more of the possession. Disappointingly, I think for Scarlets, their tackling percentage in the first half was only 75%. They only had to make 36. Well, they made 36 and they missed a few more. They probably needed to make 40 plus. For Ulster, this was kind of the story of their game, was that defence. I mean, they were at 86 in that first half, having made 62 tackles. And another key point, Scarlets conceded 7 penalties to Ulster's 3 in that first half. The tries weren't to be done in that second half. Like if we thought we'd seen some magic, Addison's try was just a hot knife through butter try. Ran a perfect line, pretty much went through untouched. But despite going through a whole bunch of players, he just somehow ran that perfect line. If you haven't seen the highlights of that one, I reckon it's well worth a look. Took it out to 10 points in front. Ascot, no, that was in the Newcastle game. Why have I got that written there? Ascot made a try-saving tackle in that game. So it could have been worse for Newcastle. It's the problem when you're watching 2 games at the same time. Got to remember which page to write your notes on. Ascot was in the Newcastle game, but McNichol had a little magic offload. See, most of the tries in this game were pretty top quality. McNichol's little kind of chicken wing offload set up Steph Evans for his second try. And that was the thing. Ulster's defence was really that good, and it was going to take moments of magic to get points for Scarlets, and they did manage to do it. It was just a few times, too many times in this game, the hands or that last pass just kind of let them down. But that was a good try. It made it within 3 points. It was 20 points to 17. But then Martel Coetzee got his try. It was 25 points to 17. You're thinking Scarlets are dead and buried as it's already, kind of 70, getting into the 70th minute by the time they're starting to attack. But Dan Davis got his try. Really well taken try. They did have a chance to attack because it was, it's on 80, but there was still time for a restart. Scarlets got the ball in their own half, went through a bunch of phases, managed to get a penalty, worked their way up the field, but just as they were kind of getting into that zone, it ended up not being enough. As I said, the last pass or the hands for Scarlets this week just weren't there, and this European campaign is kind of going to custard for them. It's another game at home where it's been close, but not enough. So they'll be pretty disappointed. But big ups to Ulster for some pretty magic defence. They were broken down at a few times for some magic attack, but they had some magic attack of their own. So this was a really, really entertaining game. If you wanted a game to kind of sell the comp, if I was going to show any of my Southern Hemisphere buddies a Champions Cup game to watch, that Scarlets Ulster game would definitely be among the top ones because it was close. As I said, there was some real solid defence, some key guys getting turnovers like was it Henderson? Yeah, kept getting strips in the tackle. I think James Davis got a pretty nice looking turnover. But yeah, full-time stats. Scarlets had at least 11 handling errors, which is really bad. But tackling percentages for both teams in the 80s. Ulster had to make 144. Well, they made 144 tackles to Scarlets 81. So Scarlets had some attack, but that Ulster defence was just really good. Possession territory 65-35 to Scarlets. Penalties conceded 11-7. Scarlets with more. Run meters 504 to 373. So if you compare that to the first half, Ulster were well up in the run meters in the first half, but second half Scarlets really came back into it, but just wasn't enough. Good effort, man. The guys didn't give up. They kept fighting when they could have put their heads down, and Ulster kept on defending. So credit to both teams for a very entertaining game. It doesn't mean much for the Scarlets fans going forward. I'd have to look at the table mathematically. I suppose there's still probably like 18 points. Isn't it 15 points up for grabs? But it's going to be tough for Scarlets from here. I'm not sure how the situation will look after the next game from their pool, but it's a pretty hard road. As I said, I'll have to check the maths whether it's possible. I would assume at only halfway it's still mathematically possible, but it would need a fair bit of luck for Scarlets to get anything out of this. Newcastle, I feel like are probably going to put their focus on the Premiership, but I guess we will see. Hopefully they get some guys back from injury as well. You guys let me know your thoughts on the games. As I said, pretty entertaining, so a fair few tries. Both games close at halftime. That one kind of blew out, but that one remained close for the whole game. You guys let me know your thoughts on the game. As I said, I watched both at the same time, so I may have missed some stuff. It was tricky, but a good thing about rugby is it's, if there's one thing about the ball in play often being an issue, the ball being out of play, often if that game was ball in play, that game was ball not in play. So that kind of worked in my favour. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you soon. See you later.